Ken Joslin, and I've got my special guest and good friend, Tracy Dews, all the way from Southern California with us today. Good morning, my friend.
What's going on, Ken?
Hey, take just a minute, Tracy, and tell our audience a little about who you are and about what you've got going on before we dive into the absolutely fascinating parts about what you have going on and who you are.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. All right, well, I delight in helping people get hydrated. 98.9% of the molecules in our body are water molecules. And if we can tap into optimizing hydration in our bodies, we're going to be activated, elevated, and turned on. And I love to help people do that. That's my mission. That's my life. It's just about education and making it fun, making it exciting, and making it easy to implement into your everyday life.
I love it, girl. Talk to me a little bit about kind of how you got on this. Well, before we do that, talk about some of your educational background, because you are an absolutely fascinating woman as far as your education, what you know, or what you've accomplished academic wise. Talk a little bit about that. And then I want to jump into why hydration. Like why you're so because I've never met anybody like you who's like, I'm all about hydration. Well, I mean, I drink 5 of these a day until I learned from you that it's got to be the right kind of water that I'm drinking. But talk a little bit about your academic background and what you've accomplished, and then why are you so passionate about hydration?
Yeah, so I've been passionate about just helping optimize people's health since I was a little girl. For some reason, when I'd see someone sick or ill, I had so much compassion. My heart just went out to them, and I wanted to know, how can I help people get better? And the drive was so strong inside of me that I whipped through high school in 1 year. And by the time I was 15 and a half, I was already in college, starting in pre-med. And I had this amazing opportunity. And my father was a minister, missionary, and there was a missionary doctor in an indigenous village that had donated a year of his time in Guatemala. And he invited me to come alongside of him and help assist him in surgery, giving vaccinations, educating people. So by the time I was 16, I had already seen a lot of different things in the allopathic path. And but the biggest thing that stood out to me was that the people in this village were dying, children dying daily, because they did not have access to clean drinking water. And from that moment, it just opened my eyes to the importance of water, because when you're a child and you wake up, you just turn on the faucet and you think it's just always there, right? It's just there, but not everybody has that luxury. And so I went down that path and spent many years shadowing doctors, doing alternative medicine, because I realized that the allopathic path wasn't resonating with me. Went back to school to get my PhD in integrative medicine with a focus on quantum physics, and really wanted to understand the resonance of our voice, the vibration of the thoughts, and everything that we're doing and thinking, and how it's affecting our health, and how that imprints the molecules in our body. It actually is imprinting the water molecules in our body with a certain frequency, a message. It is informing our bodies, and it's quite powerful, and it's really exciting because it gives the power back to us. When we take radical responsibility for our health, we realize that we have the opportunity to transmute our health however we choose.
So talk to me. So obviously you've got a PhD in quantum physics. Super intelligent. I learned that about 15 minutes into our first conversation, and super attentive. I was sharing with somebody the other day. We were at Coach Burt's coaching summit a couple of weeks ago together, and I watched you sit and work on your book and listen. And then when he asked questions, you were firing answers off. You literally could do about 10 things at one time, which is a little bit of my, I have the little ADHD as well. I'm on that side. But talk to me about your passion for, and where your passion is derived from when it comes to hydration, and the story about your daughter and some of the sickness, and really your passion to not only on the mission field work with where people had clean water, but really the health emergency that happened in your own home.
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up. So realizing that water is so important at such a young age. And then I had my own crucible story where when I was pregnant for my daughter, Grace, I had I had very little amniotic fluid. It looked like I wasn't pregnant. And I was drinking over a gallon of water a day, drinking so much water, and I was still completely dehydrated. And went to many different doctors. Nobody could figure out what was going on. And through my own deductive reasoning and really trying to uncover the answers, I found out that I had a severe mineral imbalance. And that led me on this journey to really wanting to understand that hydration is far beyond just drinking water. Drinking water is a small component to being hydrated. And so when I learned about the mineral imbalance, I also learned that we need 74 trace elements in our body in order to have the building blocks for new life. Many women are pregnant and their pregnancy is not thriving because they're missing out on those building blocks. People with injuries that their body's not able to heal because we are missing those building blocks. Our cells have this innate intelligence. Our body knows how to heal itself. Mm-hmm. It knows exactly what to do, but we have the job of removing the obstacle for healing. And so when my daughter, we almost lost my daughter because of that. And I was very ill after she was born as well for a couple of years, just very, very ill. And it was simply a mineral imbalance. There was other things to it, mindset that I needed to do as well. But I thought, I was one of those girls that drank kale juices every day. I ate raw vegan. I worked out. I mean, people would look at me and say, you've got your lifestyle dialed into this supreme discipline level, but yet I still felt unwell. And so many people out there listening to this may be able to relate to that, where they're trying so hard. And I realized that we don't really need to try that hard. Sometimes the fix is pretty simple.
So what in that process with you, Tracy, with you walking through the pregnancy with your daughter and then your daughter not being well and walking through some of the sickness and illness she had, like where in there did you dive into? You mentioned the 74 trace elements. I know we talked about some of the ocean
plastic.
There you go. Exactly right. Something I knew I was close to what we talked about last time. What in that process, where did you really dive into the hydration? You've got your own Hydrate podcast. You're teaching people about hydration. When in that timeline, did it kind of click with you and you went, oh, wow, we're missing this?
I think when we almost lost my daughter and I was severely dehydrated. I mean, I must have had seen 30 different doctors trying to figure out what was going on. And it became quite frustrating. It was like, okay, let's look and see. Maybe it's your aldosterone levels are low because aldosterone helps to hold hydration in the system. It was like we were trying to go down this rabbit hole of all these different things. And they missed that it was just the minerals, because we cannot be hydrated if we're drinking water without minerals. That's one thing. And we also need an osmotic balance between our extracellular fluid and our intracellular fluid in order for the cells to be able to uptake that water and be able to release the waste products. You need to have that osmotic balance. And apparently I wasn't balanced. And so my body wasn't able to release the waste that it needed to. So I was becoming quite toxic. My lymphatic wasn't draining the way it needed to, and my cells weren't able to hydrate the way that they needed to as well. So that was kind of the point where I realized, all right, if I don't know this, and I've been in medicine since I was 15, and these top doctors that I was going to did not know this either, then chances are that most of society does not know this as well.
Okay, slow back and let me interrupt you just one second. Go back a little bit for those of us that don't have PhDs in quantum physics. Let's backtrack just a little bit. I told you at dinner that night, I'm a cookies on the bottom shelf guy. Like, you got to make it easy for me. Like, so what does that mean? You're talking about, I'm drinking water, but if they don't have those 74 trace elements or the minerals that they need, we actually can be drinking and consuming a lot of water, but yet we're still dehydrated. Because everybody that's watching us today, they're Dasani, Aquafina, they're buying bottles of water at Walmart or Publix or whatever grocery store. They're doing those things. What do they how do we fix that problem? Like what does that mean for us?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I say start with getting rid of filtered water. Filtered water is void of minerals. Yes, it's void of the chemical contaminants that are in water, but it is also void of minerals. And water needs a crystalline structure in order to send messaging to your cells, as well as balancing your system so that the water can actually penetrate the cell and you are cellularly hydrated in an optimal way, as well as being able to remove waste products from your cells. So mountain spring water naturally has minerals. Now, it does not have all 78 trace elements that the ocean plasma does. So I think it's always good to start with mountain spring water, and you can add trace elements. I am a big advocate of this product called Quinton, Quinton, because it comes from the ocean plasma, has all 8 trace elements in perfect balance. So you don't have to worry about the balance. It's already made by divine creator. It's already there. This ocean plasma they've discovered is actually identical to the plasma that should be in our blood plasma. If our blood plasma was optimally healthy, this is the profile that it would look like. It would mimic the ocean's plasma. So you can take this ocean plasma and it's actually going to send a message to all your cells that you have all the building blocks you need for life, and it's going to help your body hydrate. Now, that's one of the very first steps to hydration. There's so many steps to it, and that's why I love to educate on it. If people go to my website or to Instagram, you can see I am constantly educating about the steps, like get sunlight, take your shoes off, ground to the earth. We need that earth's magnetism to help charge our cells because we are bioelectrical beings. We need the earth's magnetism to charge us, the sun, the infrared light, full spectrum light, things like that are essential for our mitochondria to actually make its own metabolic water, because our body makes its own water as well. And it's the purest water that's actually deuterium depleted water, which is free of that heavy isotope deuterium. But it's the purest water, and our mitochondria, our cells, make about 1 liter to 1.5 liters a day if you're healthy.
Perfect hydrated. So where do we start? So obviously you said mountain spring water is good. Is it
that filtered water? If you're going to Costco and you're buying filtered water in plastic, first place to start is get rid of that. Okay.
What did I tell you off air before we started today?
that you switch.
That's exactly right.
Water to mountain spring water. And how do you feel? Do you feel a difference in your body?
Yeah, I don't feel different after my 16-mile bike ride this morning, because I think every bit of fluid I had in my body sweated out this morning. No, but yeah, it's just, I know it's a process. I mentioned earlier one of my 5 core values, one of our five GSD code filters. So one of those is teachability. We not only are open to feedback, but we actively pursue feedback. And so I'm constantly looking. And so when I get around you, it's, and we've had several conversations, I was, wow, because it's not something you hear every day. Right. And when you told me, I'll never forget you and I, one of the first conversations we had, you told me about all the water you were drinking, but yet you were dehydrated because it wasn't water that your body could use to do the things that your body needs it to do. And to me, that was absolutely fascinating, because here I am, 52 years old or 35 years old or however old I am. And I've never heard this before. This is brand new. And that's why I was so excited about being able to bring you on our podcast, to be able to inform people exactly what they needed. So the 78 trace elements you talk about, what was the product again? You mentioned the plasma that has the 78 trace elements in it.
Quinton, Quinton. And you can get that at the water store that I buy everything from, graceandparker.com. Sold there, as well as other hydration products.
So what does that look like? So somebody's watching us today, like where I'm at, and they're saying where I was at a few weeks ago, and they go, okay, no more Aquafina, no more Dasani, no more filtered water. We're going to do spring water. Talk to me about the process inside the body when you're making that shift. Because one of the things I noticed, and we had this conversation at dinner that night, was I drink tons and tons of water, but I'm always thirsty. Like I can never get my thirst was never quenched. Talk to me about that process, and how long does it take once you make that shift for your body to go, oh yes, this is exactly what I've been craving and what I need?
That's a great question, because you are not alone. Most people have the same issue that you're dealing with, that they're drinking a lot of water and they feel thirsty. That's probably the number one comment that I get from people when they find out that I'm a hydration educator. So there's many things that go along with hydration, and it's not a one size fits all. So when you're drinking water and feeling dehydrated, chances are the answer is simple, but there's different things that we need to assess. So I have this structure that I developed is called the 9 pillars of health, so that it makes things really easy for people. And actually it's all free. It's things that anyone can do, because I believe that everyone should have the opportunity to be optimally healthy, no matter what economic background you come from. Everybody deserves to have healthy. And so it starts with hydration. Obviously, the next is trace elements. We need trace elements in our system, and I choose Quinton because it's already perfectly balanced and clean ocean plasma. The next thing is we need nutrition. We need to have the optimal amount of nutrition. So we need to be getting whole food, vitamin C. We need to be eating the rainbow, because that's a big part of keeping our thyroid healthy, keeping our endocrine system healthy, which that all plays a part in hydration as well. Getting sunlight. The first 15 minutes when you wake up, when the sun rises, and the last 15 minutes when the sun is setting is the most optimal time to just soak up all of those rays with as little clothing as possible, so that all your skin, because your skin has this receptor sites on it that is going to pick up all those photons of light and absorb it. And even within the first 15 minutes as the sun's rising and the last 15 minutes before it's setting, you can actually sun gaze. And that helps get the light into the back of the retina of your eye. And it's very healing, very great for setting your circadian rhythm as well. And grounding to the earth, taking your shoes off. How often do we take our shoes off? Most of the time we're walking around with shoes. Right. Many people haven't touched the earth, like just stood barefoot on the grass or walked through a forest barefoot, and they probably can't remember. But when you're a kid, you probably did, right?
All the time. Yeah, all the time.
And think about how energized we were when we were children. We felt so alive and healthy and vibrant. I do believe that a big part of that was because we were outside getting sunlight. We were touching the ground. And well, unfortunately, a lot of children don't do that now, right. But help change that. So the earth has this magnetism to it. When lightning strikes the earth, it's actually charging. There's this charge in the earth, and it's charging our cells, our body. And in order to be really healthy, we need to have cellular communication in place. The cells need to be talking to each other. That network needs to be communicating. And we lose voltage. We lose that communication when we are not charging our cells with the sunlight, with the earth's magnetism. So those things are essential for our body. And then when I talk about nourishment too, I say that because hydrogen is what we're consuming and eating as fuel, and we are breathing in oxygen. So taking deep breaths, getting oxygen in, though the hydrogen molecules and the oxygen molecules are hungry to come together. And actually in our cells engines, we are making our own metabolic water with the hydrogen and the oxygen. Contrary to popular belief, camels don't store water in their humps. They store hydrogen. They store fat because it's the best source of hydrogen. And so they take that hydrogen and utilize and combine it with the oxygen they're breathing, and they're making their own water to be in the desert. Desert animals are very efficient with producing water that way. Right. And so, but we need to get the sunlight, the ground. We need to do all of these things to make our own metabolic water. So we can go through the 9 pillars of health, and those are things that are free that people can do and help to hydrate.
Where do they find that at, Tracy? Where's your website? What's the best way for them to grab some of the information that we're talking about today?
Yeah, that's a great question. The website is my name, Tracy Dews, Tracy, and then DUHS at
.com.
TRACY.com. Thank you. About to give you my.
You're more than welcome. And then Tracy Dews on Instagram is also a place, and obviously there's a link there. So talk a little bit about the 9 pillars of health. Can we brush? I'd like for you to kind of just touch on each of those real quick, and then I'd love to get back to the story about your daughter and the process of her finding health and healing through what you teach on and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about hydration, we talked about minerals, we talked about nourishment, getting the food you need, nourishing your body, sunlight, grounding. And then this is a really fun one. I always say creative playtime. We need to get out and play and
Yes.
get creative and just do cartwheels, jump on a trampoline. I've got trampolines all over my house to move my lymphatic system, get that corpus callosum activated so the left and right hemisphere can really be in sync and I can be one-minded and really get creative. I really believe that that's an essential part to being hydrated and being healthy. And, it's just something that I've seen and witnessed that if we don't play, if we don't enjoy life, if we don't have joy, then that conductivity, that communication with ourselves is going to actually be inhibited. So enjoy, get out, laugh, play, move your body.
What would you say? What would you say to somebody? Because we talked a lot about mindset a couple of weeks ago, and that's one of the big things we talk about at Grow Stack Drive. What would you say to somebody who's listening and going, Tracy, I don't have your energy. I don't have the know-how of what I need to do physically, or I'm physically can't do a lot of things. What advice would you give somebody who's listening to this podcast or watching this podcast on YouTube or Facebook and goes, what can I do? What would you say to them?
I believe that every single human is born with some magic, this innate gift inside of them. And it. You're drawn to different things. And I think, some of you are wanting to get out there and paint. You haven't painted. Go buy a little kid's paint set at Rite Aid, get out in the sun and watercolor. Go play basketball with your son or daughter. Go throw a football around. Go jump on a trampoline. Go just touch the flowers and smell them. I mean, whatever you're feeling called to in that moment, explore. I just feel like each day playtime is different for me, and it's just exploring and getting in tune with my body. And that means slowing down and taking some breaths and just saying, gosh, what sounds good right now? Getting in tune. I have a lot of things around my house to help with that. I have a balance beam. People are always doing like balance beam stuff. I have an adult tree house that I've built that it's like you're floating over the water. You just lay there and look at
I
the
think
ocean.
that was the greatest thing you told me when we hung out a couple of weeks ago was your adult treehouse. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, how amazing is that to have? How fun is that? I mean, just the thought of that brings you joy.
It totally does. I'm building a bathtub under the treehouse that I can put flower petals in and just enjoy nature and the birds and do ice baths and just dream.
Yeah, I'm not in the ice bath thing, but yeah, you're good.
I just encourage people to dream again. What are the things that brought you alive when you were a kid? And if you can't remember, ask your parents. And if your parents aren't around to help you, ask somebody that will remember. Ask them what brought you to life when you were a child and start exploring those things again.
I love that. Talk to me about you're doing the hydration weekend. Talk a little bit about that, Tracy. What do you're obviously doing that in Southern California at your place. Talk a little about what that looks like. What is a hydration weekend?
Yeah, so we do a hydration summit. It's called Do Like Tracy Does because my last name is Dews, but everyone wants to say it does. So it's Do Like Tracy Does. And I bring some of the top experts together to just have fun and play. You're going to learn how to make elixirs, hydrating elixirs, because everyone loves to go to a party and have a drink in their hand. And I decided that we can make drinks that are fully alchemized in a way that you feel uplifted, energized, They taste good. You feel good. They help your skin glow. They help with that cellular communication, and you wake up feeling like $1,000,000, but you enjoyed yourself. So I teach how to make those. That's also going to be in my book coming out. I have a book called Hydrate with Tracy, and it's going to have those hydration elixirs in it. But you're going to learn how to make those. You're going to learn how to play again. We're going to have a lot of playtime, dance parties. And don't worry if you think you feel weird about that. You won't when you come here. We are going to make it so easy and effortless. So you're going to get in touch with yourself again, your inner child, the things that bring you alive, the things that make you laugh, the things that make you feel free. We're going to spend time grounding. We're right near the beach. We're 2 blocks away from the beach. So we're going to do some beach time, beach walks. You're going to learn everything there is to know about the chemistry of water, the physics of water, how to make the best drinking water at home, everything there is to know about actually hydrating your cells. We're going to teach you, but we're going to make it fun. And it's 3 days of total activation. So it's not sitting down just like writing. I can't.
Got you. Yeah. No. Yeah, I know. After about 30 minutes of sitting there in a lecture, I watched you. You were like, oh my gosh, if I don't get up and move around, I'm going to go crazy. And yours is probably for a good reason. Mine's just because I'm super ADHD. Where did that idea come from to do the weekends that you're doing?
Well, like we're talking about right now about hydration, it's there's so much that goes into it. And so I thought, what better way than to have people experience it? Once you experience it and you feel how lit up and charged you are and you feel alive again, you realize how alive you weren't. And it's not until you experience it that you're like, oh, my life has changed. And so I wanted people to come out and have the experience, to enjoy it, to be able to have tools to implement it into their own everyday life. And so what better way to do that, than just to have a summit and they can come play with me for 3 days, because I love to play.
You said once you become alive, you realize how alive you weren't.
Yeah.
Give me some testimonies. Give me some stories of people that have come into your 3-day event and have been like literally life-changing and life-altering for them.
Yeah. Recently, we had a lady come from New York who had, she'd been through chemo 4 times and just had a really hard life. She is an attorney, really driven. I believe she was in her late 60s. And that's what she said after she left. She said, I didn't realize that what it felt like to feel alive until I came here. I didn't realize what it felt like to feel charged up, to be on a full tank. I'd been living life on a quarter to really low C most of my life, but I didn't even realize it, because you just push through. It's like you get on the treadmill of life, you're going through, and until you experience something else, you don't know what you don't know.
Right. I tell people all the time, I never want to be the guy in the room that doesn't know what he doesn't know. Like that, for me, that is one of the number one things. So it's important. In my quote, every day in my 10X planner, I write it down: get in rooms with people who think bigger than you do. Like you've got to constantly get around people who think at a level where you're like, oh my gosh. And I remember the first conversation you had the first things you told me was, when we talked about hydration, sitting at that table that day at the lodge in Nashville, was I was drinking all this water, but yet I was still thirsty. I was drinking all this water, but yet I wasn't hydrated. And I'm like, wow, I resonate with that. And obviously some of the other things that we talked about were at a level. And I'm like, wow, I need to listen to what she's learned so it can in turn have a positive effect on my life and other people's lives. And to get you on the podcast, talk to me about step 1, like put cookies on the bottom shelf for people. What are 3 things that people can do today to take hold of their hydration? Obviously we talked about the mountain spring water. What are some other ways?
I would say, if you can't get a hold of mountain spring water right now today, get your filtered water. That's great. You want to make sure the water is chemically clean. That's important. Some people are just starting out drinking tap water. So get some filtered water, but add minerals to the water. And if you can't find any minerals, just take a pinch of sea salt. that's a good way to start. If you don't have anything else, it's like good, better, best. Okay, let's
Right.
start with, get some, just a little tiny pinch of sea salt so you can get some minerals into the water. And take your shoes off today. Go in the sun as the sun's setting tonight and take your shoes off and watch the sunset. Just sit there. There's studies have shown that 45 minutes of grounding to the earth reduces inflammation in the body significantly. So if you're in pain, maybe your brain's inflamed, you're feeling stressed, you're feeling anxiety, that's inflammation in the brain, depression. Take your shoes off and look at the sun as it sets. Now, only the 15 minutes as it's setting, because otherwise it'll burn your retina. But you want to take time to look at the sun setting, take some deep breaths so that hydrogen inside your body can connect with the oxygen, and you can start building in your mitochondria your own metabolic water. And then move. I like these primal movements where just like move your body. Like, it doesn't need to be in any special way. Move joints. If you want to get the water into the tissue, you've got to move the tissue. And so just whatever feels good, your body's going to tell you. So as you're laying on the lawn, start moving. Let your neighbors think you're crazy and look at the sunset. That's where people can start today. And so getting some clean water, maybe putting some minerals in it, move your body, connect to the earth, and watch the sunset. I would say try that, and you're already going to be like, whoa, I feel something.
Absolutely love it. TracyDuhs.com, TracyDuhs.com. You can follow her on Instagram at Tracy Duhs as well. She's the host of the Hydrate podcast. And your new book will be released when, Tracy?
Hopefully in January. That's the plan, that it's coming out in January. So a new year, new you, new hydrated you.
Come on, girl. Absolutely love it. Hey, thank you so much for taking some time today and talking to us and really educating people on, because I think probably the number one thing we'll hear back, the feedback we'll hear back is where it was for me was I'm drinking water constantly, but I stay thirsty. Like I just don't feel like I ever get enough water to drink. His is absolutely unbelievable. Guys, check out TracyDuhs.com, the 9 pillars of health. She talked about the 78 trace elements. It really, I love what you said. I wrote this down. It's what creates new life inside of us. Every day we have cells that are dying. Every day our body tries to recreate and build new cells and create life. And I love what you said there. I was proud to be able to get you on earlier before we went on air live and go, hey, I switched from drinking filtered water to now I'm drinking spring water.
Good. Yes, you did.
Yes, I did. Well, Tracy, thanks so much for being a guest today on our Grow Stack Drive podcast. And I look forward to connecting in the future. And guys, again, TracyDuhs.com. And listen, I want to say so much how honored we are that you taking some time out to watch our Grow Stack Drive podcast tomorrow. I've got Steve Sims will be with us at noon Eastern time right here at growstackdrive.com or on our YouTube channel or our Facebook channel as well. Tracy, you have an amazing, amazing day, girl.
Bye.
Thank you.